Have you been looking for an outlet to learn how to paint better? I have a challenge for you today if you're up for it. My name is David Garibaldi. I've been a professional artist for the past 20 plus years. I spent most of my early years as a trained fine artist, and I've evolved into a performance painter with some of the clips that you see on the screen right now. But recently, in the past handful of years, I've really been building this passion in teaching. And one of the teaching challenges that I've been doing online is these Paint with Garibaldi sessions, which is what I'm going to challenge you to take today. Now, what you're going to experience today was actually pre-recorded during a live session with a virtual painting group. You can get more information about future painting sessions down below in the description. But today, come along for this session. I'm going to walk you through step by step. I'll let you know what materials you'll need. And by the end, you will create a masterpiece. Welcome to Paint with Garibaldi. Before we get started, you need some very important materials in front of you. Let me go to my overhead cam. So first, let's make sure you have your canvas available. So the canvas that I'm working on is 12 inches by 16 inches in size. Yours can be as small as 11 by 14 or as big as you want. Totally up to you. Also, to my left of my canvas is I have my palette. So I'm using a palette paper. It's basically wax paper on a pad. I do have my various brushes. So over here, just bought a variety pack of brushes from Hobby Lobby. Not sure where you got your materials from, but I've just got everything from these small fine tip to some wider brushes like this. And then I don't think we'll need them today, but I do have some wide ones just in case. You never know when creativity takes over. And then the most important part about this process is I have some very basic acrylic paints in front of me. So I've got green, blue, red, yellow. We're gonna mix those together to create some more colors. And then also I have white and black so we can change the value of whatever color we create. So one little tip before we get started is make sure you check your paints to see if there's a seal on them. That might slow you down a little bit. I only know this because I did this yesterday when I was practicing, but just go through your paints. Like I'm going to check this one right now. I'm just going to take the seals off just to make sure nothing is going to obstruct my creative flow. But let's just put our paints off to the side for right now. And, I think we're going to get into it. Let me just turn this music up just a little bit. Now, one other note too is you'll see on, let's see, this side right here, top of the screen, you see these little dots right here, that'll be our progress bar. So I'm gonna keep you up to date on where we are at in our progress when we're quarter way, halfway, and getting near the end as well. One other note too is please don't be afraid to use the chat. If you have a question, or if you're like, David, slow down, don't be afraid to tell me that. If you know my painting style, I tend to create pretty fast. So please slow me down. I'm more than happy with that. And if you have any other general questions, just ask the chat. I have it open so I can see it. And if I miss it, I'll hop on there. And then at some point I may check in with you, ask you to unmute your mic so I can chat with you, or feel free to raise your hand if you want to turn on your mic as well and ask any questions. So thumbs up. Are we ready? I see some thumbs up, kind of. All right. If anyone wants to put their camera on as well, we're just gonna get right into it. So let's go to my overhead camera. First thing we're gonna do is over here to our left, let's get our blue and red paint, and let's put some blue and red paint on our palette to mix it together. And if you know what kind of magic this makes, blue and red makes purple. And we're gonna use this purple, which is a cool color, to create our grid on our canvas. And the grid will just help you kind of stay in a general area of where we're all working together. So mix the blue and red together. Turn that music up just a little bit more. All All right. So let's mix that blue and red together. And let's just create a very, very light, faint grid. One very thin line down the middle. Just like that. And another one that's horizontal down the middle, going left to right. Again, this will just give you a guide of where I'm working and where you should be working for this particular piece. Now, one note, my technique to painting is I always look at what I'm doing as creating shapes, and then I bring these shapes together, and the paint gives the illusion that there's an object here. So I'm not gonna tell you yet what we're making. I just want you to experience the magic of what we're making. All right, so hopefully you have your grid. We're gonna get started with our first shape. So in this top left quadrant, we're gonna create, let's just say a curved rectangle, kind of at a 45-degree angle. Imagine a rectangle with a curved top and bottom. We're just gonna fill that in. And the best secret too I can give you is go smaller first rather than bigger. Because with these canvases, it's very easy to overshoot and create a little bit outside of the canvas. Got some other people joining still. Welcome to the people that are joining. If you're just joining, we have started by mixing blue and red together. You'll see it on the screen to create purple. And we created one shape, just this 45-degree angle rectangle, and we just curved the top and bottom. Just fill that in. We're gonna go back to our palette. We're gonna add the next shape. And don't worry, I'm gonna add a couple things and then I'll wait so you can look at the screen and get caught up. We're gonna add another rectangle right to the right of this middle line. And again, go a little bit smaller than you normally would. We can always add more paint later. So we're using blue and red, mixed purple. We're adding these shapes. Those of you just joining, we also created a grid so you can get an idea of where I'm painting and how big to paint. All right, we're gonna create another rectangle. Off to the right, a little bit higher, same angle. And again, doesn't need to be, the edges don't need to be perfect. Just do a rectangle with some curved edges around this area. Another note, the colors don't need to completely match because we're gonna kind of blend these together later. As long as it's purple-ish. Going back to my palette, mixing my blue and red to make purple. Also, those of you joining us that are newer joining us, feel free to use your chat. If you have any questions or need me to slow down or anything, just don't be afraid to. All right. Now below this top rectangle, we're gonna add a line. I want you to see real quick the angle that I'm making this line before you make yours. And see where I stopped this line. So right at the edge, right side, let me go, right here. So the right side of that angle, this line, go right here, and then just, again, it's a little, just a line right there. You can make it a broad stroke, be liberal with the paint. right. Keep moving. Now, this top line, we're going to add another line. Watch the angle again. Go back to the palette. And we're going to connect this line over here. You go to the right. One tip is when I paint, I don't hold my brush up close. I try to hold back further on the brush so I have a wider range of motion. That way I can use my arm, and that's how my paintings appear more loose and free. When you hold up close, you have a very limited range of motion. When you hold further back, it allows you to be more free, and that translates into the painting. So just give it a try. This is a great time to try it out. Hold a little bit further back. Going back to my canvas, we're going to add one more line. Right here to the right. Just come down. And if you can see where we're going with this, we're going to connect it right over here. So I'm going to stop right there. Make sure we all have this very basic setup. Rectangle on the left, the two rectangles here, and these lines. All right. So now we're going to give a little bit more shape to these lines. Watch what I do here. So just give a little bit more shape to that bottom line. And then we're going to do the same thing to the one to the right. Now mine's going a little bit into my shape down here, and that's okay. By the way, thank you all again for joining me today. This is so cool. I always get excited about doing these paint with classes. All right, going back to my palette, mixing my red and blue to make purple. And now what I'm gonna do is, actually, let's do this. On the bottom of this, watch how I do this curve. I'm gonna start over here. One just long curve, almost looks like a wide smiley face. And then just go ahead and fill in the rest of that space. I love seeing the focus on everyone's face. All right. We doing all right? Good, all right. Keep it moving. All right, so we're gonna focus over here on this left side. And I'm gonna bring down a line. Now watch where I do this line. And I'm going to add another line right here. I don't know if you're picking up on what this is starting to look like. I'll give it away. There is a head right here. We've got some shoulders. And we've got 2 arms and hands that we're going to be bringing to life. So start to keep that in mind. We're starting with very basic shapes to do this. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and fill in this space over here. Now, when I'm performing paintings on stage, I usually work on a black canvas. So doing this, creating on a white canvas, we're sort of creating a space where we can have a dark canvas to work on. And that's the purpose of why we're filling in this and creating this silhouette that we're going to be painting on top of. But it's a little trick that I'm teaching all of you right now. And let's just fill in this entire space. And one other tip is make sure that there is no canvas showing through. I want to make sure that you really lather on that paint. Make sure it's covering up the canvas under it. Now I'm going to go back to my paint. And I'm going to give a little bit more depth to this line right here, which would be their left arm. Just gonna give it a little bit of love. Let's see if I can. We'll go to that angle in a little bit. We'll stay here. All right. We're going to add some fingers to these hands. Now watch what I do. Now look at the brush that I'm using. I'm using this brush that's it's thin, but it's wide. And look at the size of it. I'm not using something that's too big or too small. It's sort of in between the various size brushes, but watch what I do with this. So if I'm gonna work on this hand over here, we're gonna imagine that it's their left hand, and we're gonna add what would be a thumb. So I want you to add a thumb to this hand over here. Now, because we're making a silhouette of the person first before we add the detail, don't be afraid to paint over something that's already there. We're going to be adding detail to this later. Okay, so we got the thumb on there, and let's add the index finger. It doesn't have to be completely straight, just give it some curve. It's gonna blend into this area right here, but that's okay. We're gonna define it later. And I'm gonna add the 3 other fingers. So let's make sure we put 4 fingers total on this side. Now, some of the fingers may be together, so it's okay to paint them. You don't need to paint them all separately. So see how I've painted here, which will eventually be all the fingers, but you'll see it's just one single shape. All right, I'm gonna let's add a thumb to the other hand, which would be right here. Just a little indication of a thumb. And I'm gonna add some more paint for my fingers. I'm gonna stop right there. And then when you're ready to move on to the next step, give me a thumbs up, just so I know we're working at a okay pace. All right. Brian is moving quick. Sweet. All right. Annalise is ready. We'll wait for one more thumbs up. All right, we got our thumbs up. So now that we see the silhouette of what's coming to life, we just need to add a very important detail to kind of make this a little bit more believable. Let's connect our head to our shoulders. So just one curved line. Watch how I do this. And I'm gonna go to my other camera angle to show you. I know it's upside down, but I'm just starting right here and I'm just pivoting my brush to make that curved line and filling it in. So we're just connecting what was up here, the head to the shoulders. Once we're done with that, let's get rid of the brush that we were using. Let's put it in the water or off to the side. Actually, put it in the water to be safe. And let's pick up another brush. Let's see. Something a little bit more thin like this. You can see that. Now, as you're getting caught up, I'll explain what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go around this silhouette and we're gonna start to add some features to give it a little bit more life. We don't want our musician that we're painting to just look like a block stick figure. We wanna give it some life. We wanna add some roundness to the shoulders, some features along the side of the head, and we're gonna walk through that step by step. So let's give it about 30 seconds. Quick question, does anyone have painting experience before today? Thumbs up, yeah, okay, cool, very cool. A little bit, so, okay. All right. I'm gonna mix up some more paint. Add some blue. We're gonna use the same color. Don't worry, it's not gonna be all purple today, but we are starting with this. All right, I'm mixing up my purple and I'm gonna start to go around this. Now I'm gonna switch camera angles. There we are, all right. And I'm gonna start to go around my figure and add a little curve to the shoulder. Maybe we should go back up here. So watch this. See this neck? I'm going along the neck and I'm imagining there's a shoulder here and I'm giving it a curve. Don't go for perfection. Go for what you envision, what you feel. And I'm going to go around my silhouette right now. I'm going to start to do, like, for example, the bottom of this arm and this hand. I'm going to start to give it a little bit more curve and definition. So just go around your silhouette. And don't be afraid to go too far. I'll actually ask right now that you push it a little bit more than you would think, because our next step will actually take away a little bit from the work that we've done. So I'm going to keep going around my silhouette. Going up here on the top of the wrist, I'm giving a little bit more curve to the top of that wrist right here, if you can see where my brush is. Now, another trick I'm doing is when I'm moving my brush, I'm either letting off pressure or adding pressure if I need a curve. So if I don't want a curve, I let off pressure. I'm still moving it. If I want a curve, I add pressure. I'm really letting the brush do the hard work. So see this? It's not straight anymore. We've got some curves. You can use your hand as a reference as well. You can kind of put it off to the side. Think about what should this look like as a silhouette? And then what I'm going to do is, once you get all that done, once you go around your silhouette and you add your features, just fill in the whole thing, make sure it's all one color. Or variations. You can see mine. Mine's like purplish, bluish, different shades going on, which I kind of like. All right. Add some features to the top of my head here. A little brow, cheek. Now, I'm going to draw a line on here. You guys don't have to draw this line, but just to give you a reference of where this face would be, I'm going to paint over that. But can you see that line? You don't have to draw that. I'm just showing you a reference of that's where the middle of my face is going to be, and something for you to imagine where yours can be later. I'm just going to paint back over that. That's what I love about paint, is you can just paint over that. So we're done with this color. What I'm going to do is actually move on to the next scene. There we go. We've got some progress now. We're already a quarter into this, believe it or not. We've got a lot of detail to go. Once you're done with this, you've filled in your silhouette, you've gone around the border of your silhouette, and you've added details. Once you're done, ditch that brush. We're gonna move on to the next brush. All right, I see thumbs up from Sharnita, from Donna. And once everyone is done with this, once you've filled in your silhouette, you've gone around the edges, give me another thumbs up, and then we will move on to the next step. All right, want to see some thumbs up. I know you guys are killing it because you're just like, take us on to the next step, or ready for the next step. My biggest fear is always painting too fast. Right. All right, next brush I'm gonna pick up. We're gonna go back to the same one that we started with, a little bit wider, not too big. But actually, before we do that, let's mix up some colors on our palette. So now that we started with a cool color for the silhouette, let's start to add some warm colors to our background. So take your yellow, add a little yellow to your palette. And next to the yellow, let's add some white. And just a little dab of black. We're gonna go for this sort of grayish, warm yellow. And once you get the yellow, white, and black paint on your palette, just mix it together. You can check out the screen to see the consistency of mine. I would say a little less black. All right, so check this out. I'm gonna show you the color real quick. It's kind of like a grayish yellow, but this is your art. You make it as bright or as dark as you want, as long as it's warm. And our warm colors are yellow, red, oranges, right before we get into the kind of green tones, but all right. So next step is we are going to start filling in the outside of our silhouette before we get into the details of the inside, of bringing our musician to life. So when we do this, let me show you first before we get into it. We're going to do two things. We're just going to fill in the outside with some very broad strokes, but also, let me show you this. When we go around the silhouette, this thing that we just worked so hard on, it's okay if you go into it, but you can also add a little bit more detail into what you want your silhouette to look like. So this technique is called cutting in. So we're using our outside color to cut into the color that we've already put down on the canvas. You could also wait till the very end to do the what's going around your silhouette. We can do that last. But what I want you to do is stay as loose and free with your brush strokes. You can see what I'm doing here. Hold further back on your brush. And just be free. Be sure to cover up that grid in the background. If you can still see your grid, just add some more paint. And go all the way to the edge. And as I'm coming up to the hand, as I'm moving my brush, I'm either applying pressure or decreasing pressure. And if you go into your silhouette too much, don't worry. We're gonna clean it up as the next step. So all you have to worry about right now is just filling in the outside. This is where we all get to concentrate. So once everyone fills in the outside, with this warm yellow. Just give me a thumbs up and no rush. We're not in a rush right now. But just so I know, because so we move on to the next step. But take your time on this part. And I want to see some wild brush strokes. Like, do not make this perfect, please. You know what? I'm sorry, we forgot to put an ear. But we'll do that. We'll add an ear later to this person. Now, I'll give you a pro tip for those of you that want to add a little bit extra kind of pro flair to this, is imagine there's a light in this top right corner. And as the light shines down, the yellow in the background is brighter here. And as it gets to the bottom left, it gets a little bit darker. So it's up to you if you want to add that pro level to your painting. You can keep it solid or just add a little bit of white to the yellow you're already using on the top right, and vice versa. Add a little black to the yellow. Show you what that looks like to the bottom right. And then in between, you kind of just meet it in the middle. Don't be afraid to go into your silhouette. We're going to clean it up after this. Going back to my palette, getting some white and yellow together. I'm gonna make it a little bit brighter on the top right. All right, so I'm gonna leave mine right there. You all take your time, but when you get to the end, when you fill in the complete background, give me a thumbs up, and then we'll move to the next step. So those of you that get to the end of that, what we're gonna do for the next step, and I'll just explain it before we do it, we're just gonna go back around our silhouette and clean up anything that we've maybe painted over or we want to stick out still as a silhouette. I'm also gonna add an ear to this person. Assuming they're a musician, you probably need to hear the music. There we go. The next part is literally like magic. This is my favorite part coming up next. Just go around your silhouette once you're done. Clean up. And it's okay too if the colors mix together. For example, if the purple mixes a little bit with the yellow, that's okay. We have techniques later that we're gonna do that really clean this up. So when I say don't worry about perfection, I really, really mean it. All right, go around the silhouette. You can also add a little bit of water to your brush. It'll help the paint move a little bit further. And I'll keep pointing out that I'm holding further back on my brush so I get looser lines. Keep going around the silhouettes. And make sure that you don't see any canvas color showing through. If you do, paint over it. One technique we did not do today, but it's kind of for a more advanced lesson, which is to paint on a wash on your canvas. And what we do is we actually wash on color so that we don't see the canvas color. It's kind of, you can kind of tell between people who have been painting a long time and people who are new is sometimes people who are newer, you can still see that canvas showing through. All right, I'm gonna leave mine where it's at. I'll let everyone get caught up. Actually, no, I'm gonna give away 2 prizes today. We're gonna give away 2 prizes. I'll announce them at the end. All right, so when Sharnita finishes that middle section still, we're gonna move on to the next step. And those of you, if you're ready for the next step, you can start mixing your blue and red together. And I'll start to show you, and then we're gonna add a little bit of white to it. So if you wanna just get ready for the next step, if you wanna get ready, add blue and red to your palette and a little bit of white. So let me show you. There we go. I'm trying to choose my brush. Okay, So I'm gonna mix my blue and red first to get that consistency of something similar to what I was painting my silhouette with. So you can see on the screen, top left, got that purple there. And now, after I mix that, let's see if I can go here. I'm gonna add in a little bit of white. So I'm getting a shade lighter than the color of my silhouette. I'll go back to the overhead. I just want to show you that. All right. So we're not going to do it yet, but if you want to just prepare for the next step, is mix your blue and red, make that purple, same color as your silhouette, and then add in a little bit of white. It'll give you a shade lighter than what we have here. And we're going to paint with light. That's what this next step is called. Painting with light. And you know what? we're going to check out the progress bar. Oh yeah, we're going a step up. We are halfway. All right, I'm gonna give it, we'll say 1 minute before we move on to the next step. And if you need more time after that 1 minute, you just let me know. All right, I see a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Brian, how you doing? You ready for the next step? Thumbs up. All right. Sharnita, how are you? Thumbs up. All right. All right, so let me show you first what we're gonna do before we start to do this. So I have a brush right here. I'm gonna let this brush do a lot of the work. So the size brush that I used means that if I did one stroke of paint, you'll be able to see that, like, the arm come to life. Now let me show you. I'm starting on the very left. Let's just imagine where the elbow is. And I'm making one line all the way to the edge of the top of the wrist. Just look at that. So they would be their right arm. Just one line across. It doesn't need to be straight. Give it a little bit of a curve. I'm going to do the same thing to the other arm. And don't worry about, we're going to add shadows later as the next step. So don't worry about if you feel like you're going into another part of the painting, but just watch what I'm doing. Just adding a highlight. We're starting to bring to life this figure. By the way, welcome Donna with the camera on. Appreciate it. Good to see you. All right. So another thing to think about as we start to add more highlights to this figure is imagine a light again in this top right corner, and it's going to be shining down on this figure, and everything that light hits is what we're going to paint. So that's why I started with the top of the arm right here. and also to be the top of the hand. And now what I'm gonna do too is once I start running out of paint on my brush, I'm gonna keep painting. It's almost like, and I'm gonna still be able to see the purple that we put down first start to come through. Sort of like I would call it a dry brush technique. So start with a solid line, but when you start running out of paint, keep painting. And we're just gonna do the arms and hands right now. So one line on top of the cross of the arm. And then let's start. I'll lift this up just a little bit. Love it. By the way, thank you, Sharnita, for giving us a point of view into your painting. I love that. So right now, just focus on the arms and the hands. You can always check the screen as a reference. And I'm just gonna start adding some light to the top of my fingers. I always say go a little bit further than you feel like you should. So if I feel, right when I feel like the finger should stop, I keep going. That's my artistic gut that I've developed. And maybe you'll find the same thing. Now, this technique that we're doing is very much a lot more like how I paint on stage, how I use the dark canvas, and I'm just painting the light. I'm painting what I imagine the light is hitting on the object. And it's okay if the fingers become one. For example, they don't all have to be spread out. You can paint them into groups. Our eyes will do the work. That's what's really cool about some painting techniques is you don't always have to create the line that defines it. Use color and light to let the viewer know that there's something there. Just enough information. Right, so once we get our arms and fingers done, we're gonna move on to the next step. And I'm gonna mix up some more of this purple. All right. So next, I'm going to start adding some highlights to the shoulder on the left and the right. Again, think about that light coming down and what does it hit? It's going to hit the top of the shoulder. It's going to go down the side of the arm. And I'm going to put some like lines, like there's like he has his sleeves rolled up. I'll define it later, but I'm just imagining the light coming here. It's going to hit this side. Same thing on this arm. It's going to hit the shoulder. And this side of the arm. One thing you'll notice is I'm letting the brush do all the work. So pick a brush that with one brush stroke, it fills it in. If you're using a small brush to fill it in, you probably should step up the brush size. So now I'm gonna imagine below this arm, you'll see I'll leave some room for the shadow. But along the stomach area, I'm just gonna add a little bit of highlight. And as I run out of paint, I keep painting. That's how this technique works, is when you start running out of paint, you keep painting and you still see the purple show through, the one that we started with. So anything, you make the decision now. If that light's shining down, we'll get to the face next, but as that light shining down on the body, what is it hitting? Maybe they have like a little collar. Maybe the side of the shirt. I'm gonna leave it right there. You add as many details as you want, or as little. All right. But so we're gonna leave the face for last. But what I wanna do is actually add some highlights to this piano over here. So we're not gonna define the keys yet, but just kind of paint around the fingers, just add some highlights. You see I'm leaving space between these highlights on the fingers, and I'm leaving behind the dark color that we put down for a silhouette. So the next step, we're gonna tackle the face. But I've got a trick for you to help make this painting the face a lot easier. By the way, does anyone besides Sharnita want to show their work, what they're working on, how it's coming along? No? See some cameras moving. Okay, look at that. Donna, killing it. Annalise, let's go. Brian, love it. All right. Thank you for showing me that. That's awesome. And don't worry, it's okay. You don't have to show me. I was just curious. Alora's like, nope. It's okay. It's okay. We're going to show them at the end. All right. I'm going to start showing you the technique for the face. Are you guys cool with that? Or should we wait? Thumbs up? See thumbs up? All right. All right. So pay close attention. And now I kept telling you, let the brush do the work. And I kind of showed you where I was imagining the middle of the face being. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a line here that's going to be the top of the brow. Because if the light is shining from up here and it's going down, I don't need to add all these details yet. I just need to know where the brow is. So watch what I do here. I just add this thick line right there, this highlight right where the brow is. Now the brow is this area just above your eyebrows. So I want you to start with this. Just add one line. You can curve it a little bit. It can be straight. But this will set the tone for where everything else in this head goes. And by the way, keep the option open if you want to add a hair or a hat to your person later on. Just start thinking about that. Start thinking about where you want to add accessories to this person later, like a hat or some hair. But for right now, just one line for the brow. Just like that. And I'm gonna get a smaller brush for the nose. We're gonna add one simple line to show the light shining on the top of the nose. This is just like, it's like an illusion. It's like, it's not actually a nose. It's just a line. So check this out. So check that out. It's not touching the brow because we need space for a little bit of shadow. But I leave a little bit space below the brow, and then I just indicate where the top of the nose is. I'm using a really small, thin brush to do this, but big enough to let the brush do the work. I'm gonna add one more little triangle. So watch where I put this. It's like a sideways triangle. And that is, again, if the light was shining down on a face, on the other side, it's this little triangle. We see it in photos and how they light movies. So once you get your brow, your nose, and then what would be their right top of their cheek, right here. Now, I'm gonna add some more details. This part, totally up to you if you wanna do it. I encourage you to do it, but the painting will still come to life without it. But I'm gonna start to add a little bit more definition above the lip, the bottom lip, and the chin. And watch how I do that. It'll be 3 lines. So check this out. Let me see if I could zoom in a little bit more. Let's see. I think that's as far as I could zoom in for this. Check this out. I'm gonna go a line for the top lip, or above the lip, a line for the bottom lip, and then a little dab for the chin. We can connect all these later, but this is just establishing that there is a face here. Now, one thing that we're going to do later on is we're going to add some kind of like our own details to this, but if you could just indicate what we have here. We have a brow, we have a nose, a cheek, above the lip, the bottom lip, and the chin. Now, the little trick that we did here is what we left behind was the top lip. You see that? That space in between. Now, if you add too much paint, go back. Let me show you how to do that. I'm gonna make a mistake for you guys. Watch this. Let's just say right here, I completely filled this in and there's no top lip. Watch what I do. I'm gonna go back to my dark color and I'm gonna separate and go even darker actually. You can separate those lips again. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's the beauty of paint, is paint over them. All right, we're gonna start to add some shadows now. Let me zoom out just a little bit. From what I saw, I think you're all doing pretty amazing. There we go. So we're gonna use that same small brush that we used to define the face, and we're gonna get black on our palette. Let's add some black. So mine, put it right here. I'm running out of space on my palette because I just got a little crazy, but add some black to your palette. I've got mine right here. And now, if we were adding highlights because there's light coming from this side of the canvas, that means everything on the opposite side is going to have a shadow. So watch how I start this with the jawline. We're going to define this jawline first. So I just added a shadow on the, what we're looking at, the left side. It would be their right jaw, but. And I'm gonna go around now on everything that is the opposite side of the highlights. And watch this, what I do on the left side of the shoulder. I'm gonna start on the top and I'm gonna start to create a line that goes along the outside of the arm. What this shadow does is it starts to give your object volume, because now you have a shadow, you have a mid-tone, and you have a highlight. I'm gonna keep going around my figure, and I'm gonna add, another pro tip is as you move your brush, if you want a thicker line, apply pressure. If you want a thinner line, let off pressure. So right here, I'm gonna start moving my brush. If I want a thick line, I add pressure. Thin line, I let off. Still moving it, I never stop. All the way down to the side. I'm gonna start to define these fingers a little bit more. And actually, we're gonna go up a step in our progress. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna keep that shadow going along the opposite side of the highlights. So just go around your painting and just start to define, where do you think the shadow should go? Use your artistic gut to make that decision. I'm going to zoom in for one little technique that I'm going to show you. So I'm going to add just a little thin line right here in the eyes so that his eyes are closed. So right at the top of the cheek, you see that? You guys see that? And now on their left eye, I'm gonna add one that goes off the face so that the eyelashes kind of come off the face. I wish I could zoom in more, but it won't. Okay, see if I can, no, we'll stay here. And I'm gonna keep going around. I'm gonna add some eyebrows. Make sure they're nice and expressive. If you want to use that thin black brush as well to create some nostrils, some other details. And even do a line for the mouth in between the lips to really define these features. And then, if you want, this is a time to start deciding, do you want your person to have hair, facial hair, a hat? I'm gonna be a little creative and I'm gonna add a little mustache to my guy. Maybe your person has long hair. Totally up to you. And then I'm just going to add some lines here to define what would be the hairline. Yeah, this part I'm just having fun with. But keep in mind, all we did here, I know it sounds crazy that we're at this point, you're looking at a person playing a piano, but all we did here was we created and painted a silhouette of the mid-tone. We added a highlight and a shadow, and those three shades alone brought to life what you're looking at right now. It's pretty incredible. Oh, don't forget to add the lines to your piano. Separate the keys a little bit. All right. So one fun thing, let me zoom out a little bit. So we have our midtones, we have our first highlight, got our shadow. Let's take this one step further. Zoom out a little bit. There we go. All right, we're gonna take this one step further and we're gonna get almost, you can go with white or you can go with like a bright yellow, but something that's brighter than the background, but not as bright as white. So watch what I do here. In my palette, I'm gonna take a little bit of yellow and I'm gonna add a little bit of white. And I want to make something that's brighter than the backgrounds. And this is another cool little extra tip to add depth. All right, so check this out. I've got, it's not quite white, not quite dark yellow, but we're imagining that light still coming down from up above. And everything that light hits, watch this. I'm gonna go along the edge and I'm gonna start adding highlights, like super highlights all along the edge. And this is the last part. It's gonna start to bring this to life. You can say we're in the home stretch. And I'm not doing, now keep in mind too, this is not one continuous line. I'm moving, but I'm really just kind of dabbing my brush along the way. Because I feel like if it was one continuous line, it wouldn't feel real. But I want it to feel real, so I'm breaking up the light. I'm going to add those highlights to the piano as well. And you can even go on the other side if that light is hitting him behind. It's a creative decision, but maybe there's like a rim of light around him or around whoever you are painting. Are we doing all right? Thumbs up. How are we doing? All right. By the way, the beauty of this is that the goal is that it doesn't look exactly like mine. The goal is that you've painted every single step. And if you were to watch this video again and paint it again, the goal would be that you just do a little bit better next time. And that's all that this is. Art is a stair step of learning, making mistakes, and growing. All right, I'm gonna clean up a little bit of this face right here. And feel free to add some details. Now, I gave you tips on where to start, but I want you to be free right now as we get into this home stretch. As we get into the home stretch, I really want you to just start adding the details that you feel should be there. Like I'm adding a little bit of a highlight on the top of the eyelid. When I'm doing any painting, this is the stage where I start to do all these small touch-ups. And this is where artists start to define their style. Because what you either leave behind or what you add ultimately becomes your art style. I'm gonna leave it there. So I'm curious, let me ask this while you guys are painting. You can just maybe, by the way, you could turn your mic on if you want to answer this or not. But if I were to show you what we were going to be painting, would you have been more scared or would that have helped you? You would have. I see some nods. Would you have been more scared if I said, hey guys, this is what we're gonna paint today? I'm getting some nods on the yes. So was it helpful that when we started, I said, hey, just do this shape here, do this shape, fill it in. And over time, it starts to come to life. Like, oh, this is becoming something. And I want you to start looking at life different now. I want you to start looking at people and the light shining on their face and thinking, start looking at it like, oh, I would paint this shape to create that part of their face. Or I would create this shape for their hair, and so on. And that observation is where you really start to grow as an artist. So how do you start to observe and translate life into art? Thank you again to all of you for joining. I hope this was a fun experience. We got to escape the heat for a little bit. We got to paint together. I started doing these paint classes in 2020 during the pandemic. I wasn't able to travel and do shows. And so I thought, how do I still get to connect with people doing something I enjoy and love, which is this art? And we did, I don't know, a whole bunch of different classes like this. And so we're gonna do a couple more this summer, like you see on the screen, and we may bring them back later. It's up to, the people if you guys want more classes. So hopefully you'll be able to join some future ones. But for now, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed today's painting class, and I hope you can really take in the fact that when you started, there was a blank canvas, and now sitting in front of you is a masterpiece. It is something that you created, and I'll challenge you this. Don't stop with today's painting. Try this challenge again in a week. Redo it and see how much you'll grow the next time. And that's really how we grow over time, is we continue to work at these painting skills time and time again. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can get more episodes like this, and also hit the bell notification so you know when we post new content. And just thank you. Also, again, look down below in the description for future classes that you can take live. My name is David Garibaldi, and thank you for joining Paint with Garibaldi. See you soon.